Let me tell you something. In this world, there are many types of boxers. Some are tough, others have devastating punching power, and some are relentless aggressors. But then there's Gennady Golovkin, a league of his own.
This is my style, like Mexican style. This is fight. This is not game, this fight. I love fight.
Golovkin was a historic monster, a fighter who made even the toughest opponents writhe in pain, a force of nature who left the best fighters traumatized, a man who knocked out every single opponent he faced for over 8 consecutive years. One of the most avoided fighters of an entire generation, achieving feats such as 20 consecutive title defenses.
He's like a middleweight Mike Tyson.
Golovkin was born with the gift of power, a kill switch.
This is box. This is not game. This is box. This is serious box.
A beast, Kazakh warrior with a Mexican-style approach, capable of turning off your lights at any moment. A fighter who never once hit the canvas. In this documentary, we will explore the highlights of Golovkin's career, from his early beginnings to his legendary battles against Saul Alvarez. This is Boxing Sagas. My name is Gennady Golovkin. I am 25 years old and I fight in the middleweight division. Karaganda, Kazakhstan. In the post-Soviet era, Gennady Golovkin was born in 1982 in what was once known as the Soviet Union. Triple G entered a world filled with internal struggles, and after the dissolution of the USSR, his homeland became the independent nation of Kazakhstan. This sport is my destiny. I played soccer, I played tennis, and my coach told me I was a natural talent. From an early age, Golovkin was introduced to fighting. His older brothers would push him into street fights to toughen him up, as they believed he had a bright future in boxing. Tragically, 2 of Golovkin's brothers lost their lives during the war, leaving him with only one remaining brother, someone who would play a crucial role in his professional career. It's really difficult to talk about this, especially about my 2 brothers who are no longer with me. It's a subject I don't want to discuss right now. This Kazakh warrior holds one of the greatest amateur records in boxing history. With 345 wins and only 5 losses, Golovkin competed in the 2004 Athens Olympics. After several fights, he made it to the final, where he battled Ali Khan for the silver medal. Using his jab, a weapon that would define his professional career, Golovkin secured victory. Even in his amateur days, the young Kazakh stood out as an aggressive fighter, but in a unique way. He was both intelligent and ruthless, attacking his opponents with calculated precision. Thanks to his Olympic success, Golovkin won the silver medal. However, amateur boxing and professional boxing are 2 entirely different worlds, and Golovkin was about to test himself in the pros.
Gennady Golovkin.
On June 6, 2006, Golovkin made his professional debut, leaving behind the amateur ranks. He moved to Germany, where his successful career began, delivering knockout after knockout, sending shockwaves across Europe. At 24, he started his professional journey at what some considered a late age. But for him, it was just another challenge, a source of motivation. With demonic punching power, he handed out knockouts like hot bread. Golovkin broke down his opponents, forced them to respect him, and did it all with an incredible level of skill and precision. Sometimes it seemed like his punches lacked power, yet they still inflicted tremendous damage. But when your fists are made of stone, speed isn't always necessary. The fights kept coming, and the knockouts kept piling up. In Germany, he was already seen as a rising prospect destined for greatness. The Mecca of boxing, the United States, had set its sights on this young hunter, and Golovkin continued dropping his opponents with astonishing ease. He had never been in trouble. He went from being a dreamer in his homeland to becoming a knockout artist no one wanted to face. What surprised everyone the most were his hellish hands.
I like it also. If you want to fight, just call me, call my manager, and that's it. This is very easy business, very easy.
If there are no big fights, that means there's no good publicity. That reality forced him to move to the United States, where he would make his debut in 2012 under the guidance of Mexican trainer Abel Sanchez, a man who would play a crucial role throughout Golovkin's career. However, this change of course could go either way. Both Golovkin and his team knew the risks, and coming to this new country would be a massive challenge. His first opponent in the US, Proxa, had an impressive knockout percentage, but nothing the Kazakh hadn't seen before. Breaking down the soft spots, Golovkin sent him to the canvas in the very first round. Less than a minute later, he was down again. Triple G's body shots were brutal, agonizingly relentless. By this point, it was as if Proxa was merely a sparring partner, one that Golovkin was punishing without mercy.
Right hand hurt Proxa. Golovkin steps in and down he goes again.
In just 5 rounds, the Kazakh made it clear to the American audience that he was ready for the biggest names in the sport. During this stage of Golovkin's career, he would come face-to-face with a future rival for the first time.
Canelo came up to Big Bear when he was about 19, 20 years old. Golovkin and Canelo sparred, I think 3 times, maybe two or 3 times. But it was sparring. And sparring is so different. They're using big gloves, they're using a headgear, they're moving around. It's not a fight, it's sparring.
Canelo Álvarez was 20 years old and Golovkin was 29. They met in a sparring session where they got to know each other, both their faces and their fists. Following his spectacular U.S. debut, Golovkin faced a tough contender in what would become one of the most brutal fights of his career. His victim, Gabriel Rosado. Golovkin's jab was razor-sharp, precise and devastating. Within just a few rounds, Rosado's face was already battered. The ring, the fighters, and even the canvas were drenched in red. The beating was so vicious that it needed to be stopped as soon as possible. And so it was. The fight was called off, and the Central Asian warrior emerged victorious once again. Golovkin quickly shifted course, heading back to Europe, where he would deliver one of the coldest knockouts of his career. Japanese fighter Nobuhiro Ishida, fearless and overconfident, dared to stand toe-to-toe with one of the greatest middleweights in history. It was inevitable that one of Golovkin's blows would land with catastrophic force, like a meteorite. And just as expected, with a devastating cross, Gennady nearly sent his opponent into another realm, leaving him practically lifeless. Another fight, another knockout. In another matchup, Golovkin faced Matthew Macklin. The German fighter would experience one of the most excruciating pains ever delivered by Golovkin. The Kazakh from Karaganda relentlessly worked the body. His hooks were so perfectly timed and executed that he seemed like a boxing calculator. He may not have looked fast, but his hands were made of concrete. This happened in the second round, though it felt like the 10th. The German fighter writhed in agony after absorbing a flawless body shot. With that, Golovkin secured 4 consecutive dominant victories in the United States, and there were many more to come. High in the snowy mountains of Big Bear, California, more than 2,000 meters above sea level, Golovkin had found his favorite training ground. Thanks to the high altitude, his lung endurance was pushed beyond normal limits, translating into superior stamina for long, grueling battles. battles that often turned into sheer carnage.
Just I heard a couple times, like Big Bear, like great blades for training camp, like because Shane Mosley and Oscar De La Hoya, you know, so many great people, great champions training in Big Bear Lake. I try, why not?
By this point, Golovkin had already made a significant name for himself in his career. With 5 fights on American soil, he was now set to face an Australian opponent, one who was about to receive a masterclass in boxing. Sometimes fighters outside the ring jump on the hype train, trying to discredit the monsters of the sport. This time, Gale made the mistake of stepping into the bear's den. As usual, the Kazakh spent the early rounds studying his opponent, never rushing, because he knew that knockouts aren't hunted. They come on their own.
Fighter, but he's patient.
Good right hand by Gale over the top.
There was a brief knockdown that the referee didn't count, as a cameraman had obstructed the view. But the real falls were coming, and they would arrive early, as you're about to see.
Body shot, hard right hand upstairs. Down goes Gale. First knockdown of the fight.
Golovkin's thunderous punches were monstrous, blows powerful enough to break an ordinary man. The Australian tried mocking him, taunting the beast standing before him, a mistake that would cost him dearly.
Cornering him and hammering him like that body kicks. Down goes Gale again on a brilliant right hand. Left hook to the body and a right hand, and Gale trying to get his head together.
Like a spring, Golovkin absorbed a punch, but it might as well have been a pillow. His reaction was nothing short of extraordinary. With this victory, Golovkin extended his portfolio, maintaining his perfect knockout streak.
Right, it was a one-punch knockout.
And that, I'm really happy. Look at my face. I'm smiling every time. It's a big day for me, and not just for me, just for my team. Thank you very much for my team. You know, just great job, and big day for me today.
The Kazakh was unstoppable. Just 2 months later, he stepped into the ring against a Mexican fighter, Veneno Rubio, and landed a crushing left cross straight to his skull, one that shook his entire body and left him completely disoriented. At this moment, Golovkin's power was, without a doubt, the most devastating in the entire division. He was a one-punch fighter. His next bout, held in Monaco, saw his British opponent kiss the canvas 4 times. Golovkin was a phenomenon, an anomaly. At the mere mention of his name, fighters took a step back. To better understand the timeline, at this point, Canelo Álvarez was facing Miguel Cotto. When comparing the levels of the 2 fighters, Canelo and Golovkin, there was a clear gap. On one hand, Canelo was younger, but he had more experience, with 44 fights compared to Golovkin's 29. It was a significant difference, and during this time, fans were already clamoring for a showdown between the Kazakh and Canelo. But those calls went unanswered. For his 7th fight in the US, Golovkin faced Willie Monroe, a man he turned into nothing more than a punching bag. And not because Monroe was a bad fighter, but because Golovkin was at his absolute peak. He was a monster no one wanted to face. That left hook was blessed. Triple G was chosen by the gods, possessing freakish power that could make his opponents see nothing but white.
And Monroe actually would do better if he just sit down and fight. When he stays low, he seems...
Never hurt me. He like points like tick 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 tick. He's nothing, you know.
Third knockdown. There were 2 knockdowns in the second round.
In the end, Monroe quit on his own. With that, Golovkin secured 7 victories in the US, each one won in the most terrifying way possible. In 2016, the man from Karaganda traveled to the United Kingdom for the first time to face an undefeated prospect, a supposed British superstar. But Golovkin was Golovkin, and he was about to prove that anyone who dared underestimate him would pay the price.
I want sometimes crazy fight because, you know, if you look every time it's great, nobody won't fight.
Gennady unleashed an overwhelming, brutal beating upon the so-called rising star. Every punch landed like a meteor filled with dynamite, leaving behind nothing but agony and destruction. At this point, the Brit's mentality was completely shattered. Knowing he was standing across from a monster like Golovkin, he refused to throw in the towel out of sheer pride. But deep down, he knew it was over.
Awesome. Remember his body language and his position, his speed, power, and so on. It's finished.
Engel is trying to get referee Marlon Wright to stop the fight, and now he finally throws the towel.
Kazakhstan stood at the very top of the boxing world. With this latest triumph, Triple G had knocked out every single opponent for the past 8 years. An unbroken streak that made him one of the most feared fighters in the sport.
Do you have anything you want to say to Canelo Álvarez, who has a fight with Amir Khan coming up in a couple of weeks?
Doesn't matter who wins, just give me my belt. Hey, I need my belt. I'm ready, guys.
I know this is business, this is boxing business. And I don't want to kill him, just destroy him. No, just boxing, only boxing.
Fighters weren't just losing to him, they were avoiding him altogether. But now a bigger challenge awaited, a stronger opponent. Daniel Jacobs. The American was considered one of the best middleweights at the time. A physically imposing warrior with an iron chin, incredible stamina, and a record that spoke for itself. If Triple G wanted his long-awaited showdown with Canelo, he first had to pass this test. Both fighters stepped into the ring looking like titans, fully rehydrated, their bodies primed for war. Golovkin swung hammers, but Jacobs absorbed them like a wall. He simply wouldn't go down. Still, Golovkin's power was inevitable. The Kazakh was in control, but Jacobs was no ordinary opponent. He had power of his own, and for the first time in years, Golovkin found himself in a real battle. One thing to remember, Golovkin's chin is legendary, arguably one of the best in boxing history. The fight went the distance, and while Jacobs put up a hell of a fight, the victory belonged to Golovkin. It was a monumental win. And more importantly, it was his golden ticket to Canelo.
I think this is not finished. I think maybe this is maybe a start for serious fighters, for serious fights. I think this year is very important for me.
The moment the world had been waiting for had finally arrived.
Golovkin, you are next, my friend.
Canelo versus Golovkin.
Triple G, is there anything you'd like to tell Canelo?
Good luck in September.
La suerte es para los mediocres, my friend.
A dramatic fight, explosive.
Sé que va a ser una pelea muy dura, pero estoy listo para esto. Una pelea que ustedes querían ver, aquí está.
History fight. I see you September 16th. Thank you. You won this fight. I won a long time this fight.
The tension was suffocating during the build-up. This wasn't just a fight, there was bad blood.
I won like Hagler and Diana fight, like this, like history fight, like biggest fight maybe in the middle division, like that.
We've been here for other fights.
On September 16th, 2017, Golovkin stepped into the ring and placed all his world titles on the line. 3 belts. Across from him stood Canelo Álvarez, hungry to take them away. But Golovkin was about to be the toughest opponent of his career, perhaps even to this day. This fight would be remembered as one of the greatest of the era. From the opening bell, Golovkin imposed his physical strength. His superior durability and rock-solid stability gave him a clear edge, and it was obvious from the start, he wanted control. Canelo, on the other hand, chose a strategy that, in hindsight, wasn't the best. Staying on the ropes played right into Golovkin's hands. The Kazakh's physical superiority was a nightmare in close quarters. But credit where it's due, Canelo's chin is something special. The way he absorbed Golovkin's bombs was astonishing. Canelo was 9 years younger than Golovkin, and in a grueling fight like this, that difference was noticeable. Both men were giving it everything. This was the most competitive fight either had ever been in. Each forced the other to reach new levels. Both their strengths and their flaws were on full display.
Looking like he's beginning to get overwhelmed. I thought he looked arm-weary in the last 2 rounds. You kind of see it on his face. His fatigue is setting in.
Both had power, but based on knockout percentages, Golovkin had the edge. Both were attacking the body with precision, setting up bigger shots. And then, out of nowhere, Canelo landed a hellish shot. I remember that punch. I let it come in. It felt like just a slap, I suppose. Literally like a slap. This was a war.
Gennady wants to exchange, and he's doing it. He wants to. He's landed. Canelo slow here in the final seconds of the 10th. Arm punching for Canelo, nothing. Oh, he might have hurt Canelo's feet. Gennady Golovkin has wounded for a while. Look at that smart from Gennady. Nope, nope. Final seconds of what's been a fantastic and fun fight between Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Álvarez.
The kind of fight that boxing fans dream of. The kind that unites nations, in this case, Mexico and Kazakhstan. The final bell rang after 12 brutal rounds, and what followed was one of the most controversial decisions in recent memory. Some believed Golovkin had won. Others thought Canelo had edged it. But one thing was certain. This victory felt more like Golovkin's than Canelo's.
Adelaide Bird scores it 118 to 110 for Canelo. Dave Moretti scores it 115-113 for Triple G. And Don Trella scores it 114-114, a three-way split. This is officially a draw.
I remember that feeling when the judges announced that it was just a draw. I couldn't believe that one of the judges had scored so blatantly in favor of my opponent. How unfair can this be? How unfair can this sport be? How can someone be so incredibly inadequate? Treating athletes like that, I think it should be punished. One fight was not enough for anyone. The fans were eager to see a rematch.
Everybody knows, like, boxing is crazy business. Like a first fight, did you see first fight? You know, this is a terrible business for sport, for boxing sport. And I believe for sport.
They prepared for an entire year and finally decided to make it happen. The face-off was even more intense than the first.
Well, what did you see?
I saw he's like a clown, he's showman, he's not true guy.
Realmente no me gusta hablar. Mañana les voy a demostrar más que decir.
Thank you very much for my people who support boxing. Guys, this is special for you. Tomorrow night.
There was more determination, more fire between both fighters, which only raised expectations. Everything was set for what would be an epic fight.
His most with his right glove and fires a couple more jabs.
Unlike the first match, both fighters were more cautious. They were aggressive, but smarter. Of course, they would change their strategy if the first one didn't work.
He's getting loose. Good.
Golovkin can't box in the middle of the ring. It's
On the ropes a single time. That left hook missed.
but Canelo is the confident fighter.
In the rematch, Álvarez was the more confident fighter. He was the one who refused to step back because he knew that if Golovkin had a weakness, it was that he didn't know how to retreat without becoming an easy target. And that's exactly what Canelo would exploit.
Back and counters.
Oh, good shot.
And his body jackhammer jab.
Max, I'm gonna tell you about this uppercut right here. See this uppercut Triple G lands?
Yep.
Watch the body shot that he missed. Luckily, Canelo missed that body shot, or we might have...
Golovkin threw fewer punches, but he landed more. Canelo's high volume of punches made it seem like he was ahead, but he was actually connecting less. It was turning into a street fight. Both were in beast mode. They knew that this rematch was decisive.
Tie it up. I'm gonna...
Ain't nothing able that nobody else can do about it.
They're not with it. But left hook. Canelo, for Triple G.
Triple G.
That Canelo answered right away because Canelo knows how to fight this style of fight, Jim. This is the fight Canelo wants.
Leave one of those for us in order to win that fight. He's going to have to turn it around with it.
He's taking a lot of punishment.
Possible, Max.
Either glove as Daniel Jacobs when it appeared.
Canelo Triple G withstood the test, so let's see what happens now.
Harder punches.
Gennady landed some great uppercuts, and they connected well, but they weren't enough to take down a young, resilient Canelo. Golovkin's ability to block punches was incredible, but if there's one thing we must admire, it's his insane physical condition.
Still has the magic.
Canelo looked hurt by that. Hits them the way he's hit Canelo, and here Canelo is throwing back.
Oh, Triple G landing power shots. We're in the 11th round. And
That right hand by Triple G upstairs is the best punch of the fight.
Yes, it is.
to save his career. His career needs a win.
How is Canelo coming forward?
It was something truly astonishing. In this fight, they threw an insane amount of over 1,500 punches. It was a total
Over
war.
the second half, power shots upstairs. Almost on fire the last several rounds. Willing in this fight and rocking
To go. Who has the last rally? Golovkin landing power shots. Their feet. 10 seconds to go. Up for Golovkin.
The fight ended, but this time, there was only one winner.
New WBC, WBO, IBO Ring Magazine Middleweight Champion of the World, Saul.
Canelo took the victory. If the first fight was controversial, this second one was even more. Opinions were divided. Chaos erupted among fans and analysts.
Thank you very much for everything. It is great fight, seriously. I come back, guys. I come back.
Golovkin was deeply disappointed with the judges. After this, Golovkin continued winning fights, but age is unforgiving. The Kazakh fighter became a victim of time, and he was never the same again. It took 4 years for the Mexican to grant him a third fight, but by that point, Golovkin was already 40 years old. He was nowhere near the fighter he once was. That explosive, relentless warrior from previous fights was gone. And even though the third fight took place, it was no longer the same Golovkin. It was tough to watch a legendary fighter in that state. After this fight, Golovkin marked his retirement from boxing, ending his career in a way that not everyone would have wanted. Golovkin is living proof of hard work and dedication, one of the greatest middleweights in history. Thank you for watching this episode. Thank you for your support in every episode we create.